fashion, yes. She said, is dementia hereditary? Age is the number one factor in the likelihood of someone developing dementia. Age is. There are some influencers, and we don't say cause. I never say this caused this. There's some things that impact your likelihood of development dementia. Hereditary kinds of things do that. But so do how we eat, how we exercise. And I say all the time, I have caregivers that I'm constantly trying to help take care of. And I say, wonder why we don't exercise. We all know the benefit of exercise, don't we? And we all know how to exercise, don't we? And some of us got equipment in our house that's got clothes on it. I guess from the laughter that means that's true. Then tell me why, just, why don't we exercise? Yep. Just not motivated. Do the Lord have to strike you with the illness and an inability to walk before? And I'm preaching to my own spirit. Okay, you need a partner. All right. Can I give you an online session that can be your partner? We do an online training session, exercise. We got on my Facebook page, Universal Dementia. We got all these different exercise programs, and all you got to do is go click on it, and then when you do it, call me. All right, Nita, I'm expecting you to do it. And I think part of the answer is also, we just haven't made it part of our discipline. We get up every morning. In my discipline, I started at the gym. I give myself a few minutes of meditation, and I say to myself, I know what today is. Today is Monday. And why do I do that? Because my mom and daddy didn't know what day it was. I'm taking the lessons that God gave me from that experience and imparting them in my own life. So we're going to go through this. I'm going to talk about some of the stages. I'm going to talk about the progression. If time permits, I invited a lawyer, and I think you need to deal with the legal issues that are necessary. Legal issues are important because if you're going to care for someone, you're going to need access to resources. You're going to need access to their monies. You're going to need access, and you need to do it right. Too many of us just sign our name on the account. And I dealt with a family once. You got a checking account. Mom has a checking account. You just put your name on it. It's easy to do that, right? It'd be better if she put you as a beneficiary versus signing it. And let me tell you why. There's some people, if you have some serious debt and they decide they're going to foreclose on you and your name is on your mama's account, they're going to take her money too. Okay? It's important to know that, and you may have some people in your family I'm going to leave that there. But I want you to know I do a session called Crazy Family. Pastor, I'd be happy to come back and do that one for you. So let me tell you that there are over 7 million Americans that are living with dementia, and they're supported by 16 million caregivers. The majority of them are unpaid. You're doing the hardest work in the world and ain't getting a dime for it. But you're also getting a blessing for it. I said that the best gift I have is God allowed me to walk the last journey with my parents. That was my gift. And as a caregiver, you get some special stuff that nobody else gets. You do. You get some memories that aren't all negative. My mother said to me once, I don't know who you are. And you know how we feel when they don't remember our name, right? But she said, I love your spirit. That was worth the trip, all by itself. You know, that's important. So I already told you about the differences in dementia and Alzheimer's. They are not the same, correct? early warning signs. And if Val's out there, Val's one of our volunteers, and she took care of her husband. There she is over there. We're always looking for volunteers in a nonprofit. You're always looking for money, period, trying to survive. But early warning signs. You all tell me, what are some of the early warning signs that you've seen? Repeating things over and over again. What is it? Problems with space and time orientation. Yes, ma'am. Hiding things from themselves. Remind me, I got a great story on that one. What else? Early warning signs. Let me do this. What is it? Kind of withdraw and from communication with other people? Yes. Oh, that they remember the past much better than they remember currently. Because the information is not necessarily being transferred back into long-term memory, and most of the short-term memory just goes away. Forgetting that they're cooking, at some point you're going to have to figure out, how do we manage this kitchen such that the person can't turn the fire on. You may have to manage the house. One of the things, my father, we had to take his truck. And so what I did was, because you're taking a man's truck. All right. Y'all know that's tough. So what I did was I took the battery out of it and gave him his keys back. You got to be creative with this disease, because they don't lose their need for independence. They don't lose their needs for basic life needs. But they don't know how to ask for them anymore. So my daddy would go out to his car and try to start his truck. He's like, I said, Dad, we got to get somebody out here to fix your truck. And by the time we got to it, he forgot it. So again, creativity, yes. They can become very defensive, sometimes aggressive. And part of that is they're still independent beings. But we try to treat them like children. They are not children. They need to be honored as our fathers, our mothers, our uncles, and our aunts, and respected with the highest honor possible. The scripture says we do good by them. We get some stuff. We get some stuff. I may not be able to quote it, y'all, but I know it's there. So other early warning signs. I saw another hand. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Now that's usually, first of all, the disease is progressive. It starts at one place and it moves. And I look at 3 stages. Other people look at 8. I think that's too minute. That behavior is more in the middle, and they accuse you, I think, of 4 things. Stealing my money, poisoning me with this medication, holding me a prisoner in this house. Y'all remember any of these stories? I can't find the 4th one. It'll come. But those are natural responses that they would have. But what we have to remember is pay less attention to the behavior and more attention to what's underneath the behavior. What do you mean by that, Paula? Oftentimes they're bored, because we're like, well, all they're doing is sitting all day. These people have worked all their lives, some of them. They get up and go to work, used to go to work, and now they got to just sit. We need to keep them engaged, keep their minds as active as possible. Well, what do you mean? They're losing their mind. They're losing, but they're not losing their heart and their spirit. We need to keep them connected, keep them engaged. Don't think because, like kids with babies, we think as long as they're quiet, they're fine. They be getting up some stuff. You just don't know it. This one on behaviors, that's more at the end of the middle, moving into the middle stage for me. Remember, I do it in 3 stages: mild, moderate, and severe. And in that place, that's tough because family contacted us. Dad has Alzheimer's, and Dad is becoming violent. Okay? How do you handle someone who's violent and you're the wife? And matter of fact, you're afraid of them at this point. Okay? Come on, talk to me. Y'all experts. Come on. What do you do? Yeah, I'm not a big one for medication, but she's absolutely correct. some medication, but it oftentimes knocks them out versus giving them the capacity to function. I told this mom, first of all, get all the knives and the guns out the house. Just get them out. This is not a discussion. If you feel threatened, really, get them out of the house as quickly as possible. Don't make no announcement. Just do it. All right? Secondly, I would not only that, secondly, I would start paying attention to what happened just before they became aggressive. You're looking for patterns. What are the triggers? You're looking for patterns. What's happening that might have caused that behavior? So we find that many of our loved ones are bored. They might have a need that they haven't met. They might need to go to the bathroom. They are sleepy, and they don't know how to tell you that. They may be dehydrated, which means they might be having some more additional confusion. So you become a really good detective on the person that you love. Your job is to learn them. Know who they are. Know what their patterns are. Understand who they are. And when you start seeing stuff, you're like, okay, I know that behavior. Let me see if I can engage it. But this is my lesson learned. There are moments that nothing works. And a tool I'm going to give you before we leave today is to give you a booklet I have the 7 care strategies that we have designed. And what's important in that booklet is sometimes all you have to do is simply be present. Every now and then you got to quiet your own spirit. Because sometimes you got too much noise in your own head. Y'all know what I mean? You sitting there looking at them thinking, I wish this was different. I hate that I got to deal with this. Oh, they're going to say so and so and so and so. Quiet your own spirit first. Until you can manage you ain't going to manage nobody else. Yes, ma'am. Alcohol, there is such a thing as an alcoholic dementia. Yes, ma'am. If a person would stop drinking, they won't correct what's already wrong, but the disease won't progress. So if you have someone, and we're saying that like it's easy to stop drinking. It's about as bad as exercising, except it's chemically based. And you know you ain't exercising. But there's help available for someone who's an alcoholic who is interested in trying to change. There's support groups around, there are hospitals, there are outreach groups that are looking to help you out. Yes, ma'am. She said, mom's in a nursing home, and she's cool while she's there all day. And then when she gets ready to go, she starts getting paranoid. It could be a couple of things. Is it the end of the day? There's this thing called sundowning. Sundowning is, first of all, we think we know what it is, but we're not sure we know what it is. Sundowning happens when it seems like the person was good all day. They were functional, they were engaging, we had a wonderful day, and at the end of the day, it seemed like their anxiety just shot up. Well, part of that is, and what we found out and learning, is that, you know that clock in our head that says get up even though it's vacation? You getting up at 6 o'clock even though you're on vacation? And then you lay there mad? Okay, so I want you to know that that happens. Their clock is off. The timer's not working anymore. That's what's important. Remember, this is a brain disease, and your brain impacts everything that you do. It's not just your thinking, it's everything you do. So what we have found is that it can impact the timing. They don't know what time it is, and they're off. One of the things, there's this thing called light therapy, that you can keep the brain engaged with more, like putting the lights up more, and you fool in the brain. So what I do with my father, he used to watch the sun go down, because he had one of those bay windows. I would close the curtains before the sun started going down. I'd increase the light in the house. I'd reduce the caffeine that was in his body. There's some things you just got back to. I knew who he was. When you know somebody, you know how to engage them. But hear me, sometimes it still don't work. All right? Something people often ask me too is like, my mother started cursing for the first time. I said, my mama was a good church lady. My mama was a first lady. And you know first ladies don't curse in public. Did you hear me say in public? I grew up a church kid, so I'm with you all. But what happened is that when everybody in this room is wanting to cuss somebody out, tell the truth and shame the devil. But we stopped because something in our mind said, don't do that. You know it. I've done it. And some of us did it, but we don't want to talk about y'all now. But there's a part of your brain that says stop. But remember, I have dementia. I've got a brain disease, and that part of my brain has been destroyed. Plus, cuss words last longer than any other words that you develop over time. I said God had a sense of humor. So don't be surprised, because what happens is we usually overreact. And when you overreact, guess what happens? They overreact. And when you do that, when they do that, what do? And then you just kind of escalate it all the way up. My mother cursed at me for the first time in my life, and I'm grown. I fell out laughing. It was the funniest thing I'd ever heard. I didn't know it was possible that my mama cussed. And you know what she ended up doing? Laughing with me. Some things ain't that serious. They're not that serious. If I can lighten you up and let you know that you got more strength than you realize, and you got more experience than you realize, well, it's just awful. It is. It's an awful disease. It's an awful disease that rips you of your memories. It rips you of knowing who people are by name, but it doesn't rip you of knowing them by heart and spirit. They will always know you. One of the things I used to say all the time is that my mother responded to music, and most people with dementia respond to music. And so what I said is my voice is going to be music to her. So when I engaged her, I knew I had a melody in my voice. I talk like this. Y'all know people who talk like this? They hard. I didn't engage. Yeah, why you doing that? You know I'm trying to dress you to keep moving. Remember, one of the characteristics is they forget things, even about dressing. So they forget, and they might decide one morning they put their shoes on before they put their pants on. And the natural reaction is, Mama, you know better than that. Why you putting your shoes on? You trying to put your pants on? That's the most human reaction going. Don't get mad at you. Catch you and say, Dr. Paula said, manage you first. Manage you first. Because as you manage you, you'll manage them better. Yes, ma'am. She said, what causes them to completely stop speaking? If I knew that, I'd probably be rich. But I would make a speculation. That part of the brain probably is getting damaged or destroyed. Or sometimes they go inside because things are too hectic outside. Part of the beauty of what you have the ability to do is you get to control their world. There's some people that you don't even like being around. Why do you think they like being around them? You have the ability that could stop them from speaking because it's too intense. The issue, in how many of you have family reunions, and in those reunions you have 10 or 11 conversations going at the same time. And you think you can bring your loved one with dementia into that conversation. It's overstimulating. If it's too stimulating, they will withdraw, go inside, and stop speaking. So, well, does that mean we shouldn't take them to family reunions? Now, good. I hope you didn't hear me say that. Take them to family reunions. Have a separate space. Make it comfortable for them. And in doing that, what you do is you give them the right to stay connected with other people. And give them a buddy. Well, what's a buddy's job? What's your name, sir? Can I call you Stan? I have dementia, and Stan took me to the family reunion. Stan said, Paula, we're gonna manage this day. We want you to be out here. It's beautiful out here. I want you to enjoy the sunshine. I want you to get connected. And Stan is my buddy. So anytime somebody came up, he said, hey, Janice. So I know Janice couldn't say, what's my name? For some reason, they want us to know what's their name. My daddy told me once, he said, you don't know your own name? Why you keep asking me what's your name? And sometimes you got to just catch yourself. And that's your ego going there. That's your ego. And that's back to, what's my saying? Manage who first? Manage you first. All right. I already told you about this next one about conditions that mimic dementia. Let me talk about how many of you with your loved ones actually had a diagnosis done. You took them to a gerontologist or a neurologist, and you had a. Let me also say this. People of color, us in particular, tend not to get the evaluations. We got issues with health care, of which I absolutely understand. Because oftentimes we're disrespected, oftentimes we're not listened to, and you pay your same money everybody else does. But the difference is they get an advocate to speak for them, and we decide not to come back. Guess who got hurt in that scenario? We did. We did. So I'm going to offer myself up. If you ever start feeling like you've been disrespected, call me. I'll give you notes on how to ask the questions, because somebody can help you engage with professionals. And one of my personal missions is anybody who does research on black folks, going to first of all pay you for being there, and then they're going to bring back the information and tell you what they found out and how you can use it. That's my personal mission. Don't do research on us and not tell us what you found. That's why we don't trust you. Okay? So if somebody wants to do research, and we need to be in some of these research studies, but don't just do them because they asked you. Ask the question, are you going to bring the data back and tell us what you learned so we can utilize it before you publish? Because they're in the publishing. That's the biggest. I'm a PhD, been there. Matter of fact, our church helped me with my dissertation. I went back and told them everything I did and how information would be used. So that's important. Yes, ma'am. The assessments. Okay. Right. Let me first say this. When you approach somebody and they're in a state of denial, leave them alone for a minute. Because when you come in, all that's saying is you're trying to say I'm crazy. That's where we're going. You're trying to say I'm crazy. What you do is you align with them. Use that cunning spirit that they say we're supposed to have, whatever that is. Use that spirit and engage them and talk about, Mom, I think I'm going to go to the doctor. I've been forgetting too much stuff. Guess who now the focus? Do you mind going with me? Or they might say, you know what? I've been forgetting too. Your job is to build a relationship with this person. You really have three things that you really control. You're supposed to control you. You control the environment. Those are the things you can really impact. And you control the building a relationship with your loved one. Have them let them in their own spirit over time realize, I can trust this person. They may never use those words, but they also can trust you and feel comfortable being with you. Let me finish the piece on, we were talking about, so you need an assessment, get an assessment. The other thing I would do, I would contact her doctor and say, you know what, there's some things I'm starting to see in my mother. What do you think the best way is to get her in? See because if they have a good relationship and he or she is a good doctor, they'll say, I'm going to have my nurse call and set something up. You go in with them. Two of us sit in the waiting area while our loved one with dementia goes in to see the doctor. And in the process, they say, Mom, what they tell you? Nothing. Nothing. Or I don't know. So I was in there taking notes. Because my mother would always say, well, talk to my daughter. I'm like, Mom, I want him to respect you. I'm here if you need me. I always pushed her first. So she never would think, you and that doctor working together. Know that paranoid is part of what happens with dementia. They will be paranoid from time to time. But that doesn't mean nobody's not after them. Because there's some families where people are after them. All right? I just learned that Mr. Randolph Pfeiffer, my lawyer, has just walked in. I give honor and respect to the lawyer. I'm going to stop for a minute. Remember earlier I said that one of the key things that's important is that you get your paperwork right, so that you as a caregiver will be able to do the work you need to do. So I know my wheelhouse, and I'm dangerous as a lawyer, so I always bring somebody who knows this stuff. And if you'll join me, please. Where's Mr. Oh, let me get you a chair. Thank you very much for joining us today. Just right here in the center. And we'll give him the mic. And so you can ask some questions. There are some key documents that you need to have. You need potentially a power of attorney. Some of them you need before they die. Some of them you need after they die. And I don't know who has power of attorney for health or power of attorney for finances, or if you have a will. And people say to me, I don't have nothing. I don't need no will. Have $2 over your funeral, and your family gonna fight. Okay? So what I'm gonna do, Paul again.
The family may fight.
May fight. My family fought. I am colored by my experiences.
Hello, everyone. I really appreciate that you invited me here to have a chat with you today. I met with an Alzheimer's support group many years ago. It was a much smaller group than this, and we talked about some things that you might need to do. You may not be in the path of the dementia, but you may have a loved one who is. And so there are some things that you can do to make certain that the person who is lucid, who is not, quote, crazy as the Alzheimer's person might call you, to make it easier. I want to just discuss a different number of estate planning mechanisms that can help you with this, and even if Alzheimer's or dementia is not an issue, they can come into play. Now, before a person has Alzheimer's or has been diagnosed, and everyone should have this, you're over 50, 60, you should probably have what I call a living will. And the living will consists of several documents. The hospital would give you one. They call it a declaration, or they may have a lot of names. I call it a health care declaration and a power of attorney for health care. Now, what that does is to delineate everything that you want done in the case that you cannot participate again. That's the power of attorney for health care. If you can't do it, you got to have somebody to help make your decisions. And I had a law firm for 40 years downtown, and now I'm semi-retired. But I had a case where some people don't want to face the fact that their cognitive abilities are diminishing. They can't think as well. My wife and I kid about it all the time because I forget. But I told her, I said, at least I'm not putting my shoes in the refrigerator. I said, when I start doing that, then, get me some help. But those are the kinds of things people forget all the time. I was 40 years old and 42 years old, and I couldn't remember names. And I happened to go to this church that my physician went to, and I complained to him about it. I said, I can't remember names. I think I'm losing it. And he said, oh, don't worry about that. He said, the mind just sloughs off things that it thinks isn't important, and names are one of them. But it's an effort, too. I'm just talking about people who don't have cognitive decline. I used to go visit my daughter who lived in Raleigh, and I had a contest with myself. She would have these young married couples, and there'd be about 30 people. And so I had a game that I played with myself that I was going to remember everybody's name and what they did by the time the little parties were over. And I did it every time. And the way I did it was I associated something unique with that person. And I shocked myself. My wife said, you don't know all those people's names. I said, let's go around. It was fun. But let's get back to the power of attorney. If a person always is already exhibiting cognitive decline, they won't be able to sign a power of attorney because they're not mentally competent. So these should be signed in advance. You may never need it. You may never need the health care declaration, or you may never need the power of attorney for health care. And the power of attorney for business, sometimes banks give you a problem with those. They don't like powers of attorney. So make sure when you have a power of attorney that you're going to present to the bank, that it's done properly. The Michigan statute says that you can either have 2 witnesses or you can have 2 witnesses and a notary. I suggested if you have one, have 2 witnesses and a notary, because the banks, they don't like dealing with it because, sometimes it can create a liability for them if people are not doing what they're supposed to do, stealing the money or whatever. That's the informal way, the power of attorney. You can do it without accessing the courts. So, yes, you can. If you know what to put in it, write it yourself. That's why you probably should see a lawyer. But I wrote a health care declaration for myself. And it was funny because I told my wife, I said, they can't cut a thing. Not a finger, not a toe, nothing. Let me go. I don't want all that. But that's the kind of thing that you can put in your health care declaration, in your power of attorney for health care. You can put very specific directions. Don't do this, don't do that. Like a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses will say, no blood transfusions. And it'll be in bold. Put it in bold, Mr. Pfeiffer. I said, okay, no blood transfusions. So those are 2 things to help. The 2 powers of attorney and the health care declaration are things that are put into effect while you're alive. Okay? And your loved ones should carry them out. Now you can have an alternate person be your attorney in fact for either situation. I don't necessarily suggest that. Many of my clients now don't even bother with it. Their names just go on the bank. And so when their loved one, if you have a trustworthy loved one who will simply pay the bills and take care of you and make sure that, financially you're not falling down a hole, then you can do that. And I would advise that, if you have that trust. Well, they can even do it with the power of attorney. The money can be stolen. It still involves, a lot of anguish and perhaps eventual court involvement, but it kind of sets out all the rules for what the attorney in fact can do. Okay, and then those powers of attorney, the ones that I do, they always have a provision that they can be canceled upon written notice to the person who's been given the power. So say you give the power, say your mother gives the power to you, and she says, I don't want you to be my power attorney. You're not doing it right. You're not discussing it with me. You're not telling me anything. You're spending all of my money. Here's a note. I don't want you to be my power attorney. And that would be effective. So now, if they do that, and they have cognitive deficiencies, then you're going to have to go to court. And there are two processes that you would do in court. One would be for guardianship. The guardianship allows you to make medical decisions for a person and move the person. You have like the rights of the physical control over the person. But if the person has assets, then you're going to have a conservator. And that is the one that's a little more tricky, because that involves the money, the assets, the houses, the cars, whatever the person might have. And that will be very strictly supervised by the court. You have to file an account every year. First thing you have to do is file an inventory. You got to say, this is what they own. And then each year that you're spending money, you file an account. And that account has to be approved by the court. And the relatives, any other heirs, not all relatives, just heirs, if there are children, they would have to approve. If they're parents, they would have to approve. Siblings don't have to approve, okay, unless there's nobody else. Okay, it's the next of kin. And the next of kin are the children and the parents. Then I've had many brothers and sisters come in. And that's a lot of times where you get the flack. That's my brother. I know he left me something. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes. They're all different. I'm only speaking of Michigan. But they're pretty similar. On a what? On a guardianship? Oh. Well, it's not that way in Michigan, because brothers and sisters are not heirs. Every state is different. In Michigan, you can die without a will, but the state will make a will for you. And the will in terms of who receives your assets, spouse first. If you have children who are, and the children have the same parents, you're okay. But if you have children and the children have a different parent, then upon death, that is. Upon death, they would be heirs after a certain point. I think in Michigan, it's, no, excuse me, the children are primary. Parents will get 10%. If it's over $150,000. Everything over $150,000, parents could get 10%. Everything else goes to the kids. And if the kids are underage, then they'll have to have a guardian and a conservator appointed as well until they're 18. Oh, yes, I do a lot of ladybird deeds. Okay, if we're going to go into that, first of all, let me talk about a will, because it's connected. The two are connected because they're post death mechanisms. Most people don't need a will. I advise you to have one. And the reason I advise that is because you may have all these accounts that you've got joint and you've got beneficiaries on, and you think you've got it all lined up and it's ready to go, and something happens. And there's nobody listed. Now, a lot of the insurance policies will have, especially the ones that come with employment, they will have a list of who takes first. And the list pretty much follows the probate code of the state. And they'll list them, and if none of those people are, they call it a facility of payment clause. Rather than, if you have it designated a beneficiary, rather than paying it into probate court, they will pay it out to the people who can prove that they're next of kin. And they'll give you a list and tell you, these are the people. But the nice thing about a will is that if something falls through the crack, the will can take care of it. In other words, you forgot. Although cars are pretty easy. Cars are pretty easy to transfer, but it's something you forgot. You might have had a piece of property. Oh, I didn't. A piece of real estate. I didn't name anybody. Well, if you didn't, then that will pick up all of those little things that you might have forgotten or didn't put a name on. But surprisingly, a lot of people who come in to see me today, as I am kind of semi-retired, but the people who come in to see me, they've already got names on most of their accounts. And if you go to a credit union, like Michigan First is one, they won't let you walk out of there without naming a beneficiary. Name a beneficiary. Because they don't want all the hassle that will come if you don't. People fighting to get the few dollars or the many dollars that you need. Okay. Now, ladybird deed. A lot of people in the old days when I started, I didn't know this. You want to share your real estate. Say it's the house that you live in, your residence, and you want to leave it to your children or one of your children or several of your children. And so you do a a joint deed. The problem with a joint deed is called a joint deed with full rights of survivorship. Once you put the person's name on a joint deed, you can't get it off unless they sign off. If they have bills and they have a judgment against them, that judgment will be assessed against your home. The way that a Lady Bird deed is different is that it doesn't take effect until your death. And you can change. I've had people change the Lady Bird deeds a couple times because they might get upset. Just like people change their wills. They say, oh, I don't want her to be on my Lady Bird deed anymore. Can you change it? I said, yeah, you can change it. They're going to look at the last one. But the Lady Bird deed, what it says essentially is that I'm deeding this property to myself. But in the event that I pass and I haven't sold the property, then it'll go to so and so and so and so. You name those names. And all those people will have to do, the people who you've named in the Lady Bird deed, all they would have to do is to record the death certificate. And once the death certificate is recorded, it becomes theirs. That's right. That's right. Are the three people co-owners? As owners. They'll have to sign off. Oh, it's a joint deed. Joint deed. Yeah, everybody would have to sign off in order to get it back to the parents. Then they could do a Lady Bird deed, because what might happen is that they may only want to leave it to those who survive. And so I've done a lot of Lady Bird deeds which will say it goes to A, B, and C, or to their survivor, or to the survivor of them. So that way, you don't have a lot of children, and children can come in and make a mess. Grandchildren. I know Grandma gonna leave me something. and Grandma may have just forgotten. So those are some of the mechanisms for taking care of yourself or your estate after death. Now, if you're married, of course, everything is going to your spouse. Unless you have children from other marriages, other relationships, then they can create some confusion if it's more than $150,000.
Let me do this. This conversation we do fairly often, and we usually give a report to the attorney for the entire time. I just wanted you to know that there's some documents that you need to be paying attention to. And what I heard was we need to be sure about our powers of attorney.
Yes.
And clarify who's that. And we need to also consider a will. You don't need a will if you do all the designations properly along the way. But the other thing is, and you indicated this, you need to get those documents while I still have capacity. Now, those of you who will work with people with dementia know that they have the capacity sometimes in the morning and not at night. Well, if you do the arrangement right and have a lawyer come over in the morning while they have capacity, you can get a document. But you know, but that's your risk
you do want to do it, try to do it before it gets to that
You
point.
want,
Because
Yes.
the reason I say that
but you can
is
still get
because
done.
if there are other relatives, there's going to be a contest. Ani wasn't competent. She couldn't have signed that. You know, so try to do it before they get to that stage where they're exhibiting real symptoms. Little slight ones, okay.
And we've given you two documents in the material you came. We gave you a lot of definitions, of legal definitions. That's one we provided. And I've also given you a list of free and low-cost elder law attorneys. So know that you could always pay for an attorney, but there are also some free services. If you are with the UAW, the UAWs have free services. And it's important to utilize those things if you need them. So I don't have, as much as I want to go on, y'all only gave me the 1 o'clock, so I got to stop at 1 o'clock. So I have an attorney who you know can take up to 1 o'clock. So I'm getting one last question and before I take the last 20 minutes. Yes, his hand is up.
Lady Bird.
We don't know what you're asking, to be honest.
I think I know what she's asking.
Is
I,
there
I,
a
I, 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 neighbor, you're not already a guardian, are you? Okay. Once you become a guardian, you can't really do a Lady Bird deed because you have to have competency. You have to be mentally competent to sign any of these documents, including a Lady Bird deed. Okay?
I'm going to say thank you.
All right. Okay.
And if you're hanging around, they can rush you afterwards. But I need my last 20 minutes.
Oh,
How
take
about
your
some
last
love
20
for,
minutes.
thank you, sir.
This seems to be pretty helpful here. I didn't talk about trust because,
But that's okay. I gave you terms that we would normally use.
okay.
And you could always follow up with an attorney. Don't ask me, I told you I don't know, but I got an opinion on everything. So find an attorney on a list or in addition to some of the other folks we use. Because we often partner with an attorney because we want to make sure that you do your documents right.
But everybody should have a living will, and the living will consists of the healthcare declaration, the power of attorney for healthcare, and then I would also include a durable power of attorney. That means that it's in existence after you are not cognitive, and the power of attorney for business. Those are what I call parts of the living will, and they help you while you're alive.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Be careful. All right, I just want to show you this picture. This is a healthy brain. Can everybody see how plump and flush it is? This is a brain with Alzheimer's. You see the difference? It is a brain disease, and it's destroying the brain. That's why I want to just keep emphasizing, it is not a mental illness. It is a brain disease. I want to show you one more picture. This is a healthy neuron in your brain. This is what it looks like when it's healthy. See how clean it is? How clear? This one has Alzheimer's. It's got plaque. It's got buildup. It's got blockage. That's what's happening in your brain when you have Alzheimer's. So the next time you look at somebody and they say they have, and we know they have Alzheimer's, know that they're not clowning. The brain is being destroyed over time. Okay? So we started talking about the stages of dementia. I'm going to skip to, so this is the picture I normally show. Guardianship, and that sheet that I gave you, guardianships, power of attorney, conservative, wills. If you don't want to be resuscitated, be clear. Put it in writing. If because I don't want to be resuscitated, but I said, don't let me die from a cold. So I'm just kind of, let's be clear on what I expect. Okay. Living wills, and what are your support expectations? Do you want to be placed in a nursing home? And if you say no, do you have enough money that somebody could take care of you? How do you want to be cared for? I want to make those decisions. I don't want somebody making them for me, so I'm going to leave documents that says, this is how I want to be treated. Okay? And if you're having trouble, write this number down with a conversation with a loved one about money, because they don't want to tell you their business. And matter of fact, they want to keep us out. There is Latoya Hall. She's at Wayne State, and she's in the SAFE program. Her phone number is 313-664-2608. If you need some help creating information about wills, they won't do it for you, but they will help you obtain necessary information. She's a great person to connect with, Latoya Hall. And on that list of free and low-cost things the neighborhood legal services on the top, they're my main partner on this list. And they have what they call a first Tuesday, where you do an initial conversation with them, and then you can be assigned a lawyer, and that lawyer then will work with you to develop your documents. Okay? Want to make sure we leave some resources here at the same time as you're being knowledgeable with information. That's my mother. In the middle stages, as I said, the disease just gets worse. It gets more progressive. They may at some point in this process forget who they are. And so if you were to have them, if they were walking in their bedroom and they don't know who they are, and they look in the mirror and see that person, it might frighten them, because it's not them in that mirror. So it's important to know that's an easy fix. Put something over the mirror. There's some simple fixes to stuff. Well, she doesn't know herself. Okay, that's part of the disease cycle. Let's keep focused on it's a disease that's going to progress. And in the severe, and there's some clear signs that someone is dying. And if at some point, I think somebody should talk about the stages of death and dying, and what to see, and what you might experience. And because all of us have gone through somebody dying, but did we pay attention to the signs that told us they were dying? And how did that happen? And so it's important that we know that in the severe stages, they may be suspicious, they may have delusions. As Mom did, she forgot how to swallow. And then there might be just some basic repetitive motion. You've seen someone, it seems like they're picking at something in the last phases of the process. But no, our loved ones are like flowers. A flower is here today, but what's the end of that? Gone tomorrow. Our flowers also require different kinds of care. A rose requires a certain level of care. A dandelion is a flower. It requires a certain kind of care. And some of us know that our folks have been like dandelions. So the challenge is to make sure that you provide them with the right set of care for them. Because some people think because you have dementia, you all treated the same way. It's called personalized care. Personalizing what I know about you, what you know about me, and providing the right set of care for them. But fear and suspiciousness, so what were the three things I told you that you control? Managing yourself, the environment, I love it. What was the third one? The relationship with your loved one. On this bottom part, it is important when they're starting to be fearful and suspicious and possible delusions, know that those things are real. know it's real for them. Somebody, sweetheart, come up here. I believe demonstrations teach better than words. I'm mom and I have a dementia. This is my sweet daughter. I can't stand her most of the time. This is my sweet daughter. And so my sweet daughter's coming over to do something with me. And I'm like, girl, you trying to get steady. Oh, you can't hear me. All that good stuff I just said. Again, I just want you to know this is a hard disease. It's hard on you. And I told somebody 30% of the caregivers die before their loved one. And why is that? The stress, they don't take care of themselves, they don't eat properly, they don't exercise. But I say exercise is easy. How many of y'all wash clothes? How many of you have to go downstairs or upstairs to wash clothes? Take them steps, one piece at a time, with your little basket. That's exercise. You think you got to go somewhere to exercise. Well, get yourself a couple of bottles of water and get one arm going, and get you some music, get that favorite church song in your head and get to going. There's so many ways to do something to take care of you. But the problem is most of us don't think we're important enough to be taken care of. Somebody said, well, I'm just doing what the Lord told me to do. Girl, don't get me started. The Lord told you to take care of yourself first so you can stay here and take care of her. Yes, ma'am. She asked the question, do they treat you worse than they do other people? Oftentimes, the person that's around them catches it first. And this is the issue. We will say, and you get mad sometimes. That's why I said, man, it's you. I ain't doing nothing else for you. I'm doing everything I can to take care of you. You ain't said thank you in your life. And I said, she can't. Remember that I'm sick. You got to keep managing you. But you know what? If somebody told me that, I'd say, I know. I've been working at it. We struggle because some of it's the truth. And somebody said it out loud. I guess I always get tickled with, if you say I'm short, I'm like, okay. You say I'm ugly, I'm saying that's your opinion. I don't have to go back and forth with you. I got a life. Yes, ma'am. She asked, can you be young? Yes, ma'am. As young as sometimes 30 and 40 years old. And to me, that's probably as hard, if not harder. Because you got babies now. Oftentimes you got babies. and how to deal with it. So I want to emphasize, because I tell you, I have an 8-hour session that I normally do. I'm just trying to give you pieces of it. I want to show you the flowers model. Val and company, will you give them my gift to you are a couple of things. I want to give you our flowers book so that you have it and you can use it. If you ever want to talk about it, ask questions, feel free. You can always reach me at paula@universaldementia.org. That's my personal email. I respond to all my emails. Paula, if you want somebody else to respond, do info. But it's paula@universaldementia.org. We created these flowers books as strategies of doing. I want you to know music helps with dementia. And in those moments, whatever music they enjoyed, put it on. Put it on. And you usually see an immediate reaction from a loved one who's in a state of stress, who's feeling paranoid. I encourage you to use music. Use their music, not your music. Because if you're into the bebop and I'm into Amazing Grace, it ain't going to work. So use their music. Not only that, touch works. The power of touch. In our full-day session, we bring a masseuse with us. And we teach you 3 touch movements that you can engage. And it's not like you're becoming a masseuse. What you do is something really simple. The research has shown just somebody holding your hand reduces your blood pressure. And if you really like them, who knows what'll happen then? So, as you're looking at this book, you'll see Comfort Me with Touch, which is one of the strategies. Help Me Feel Safe, and I know I'm doing them out of order. And I don't know if I brought enough books. If I didn't, I'll let them know, and we can get the church to a few more. Okay. All right. But before any issue you face, okay, because you're going to face, all of you have probably faced some issues. Any issue you face, I want you to use this model. All right? I'm in my room. I'm your mom. I'm in my room, and you're in the living room. Okay? Y'all with me? And you hear, you get up and go rushing into that room, right? Guess what you just took with you? All the stress and anxiety that you have in your spirit, you just gave it to your mama, who no longer has the gift or the ability to knock it off. Okay? Let me just start there. Let me finish this. Yes. I need you to do this. I need you to, if you hear the scream, stop and simply be present. Stop. Breathe. Come on, everybody. Breathe. And let it out. Breathe. It's an amazing concept. We ain't breathing most of the time. We doing this short stuff. No. You need to just breathe. Stop and breathe. After you breathe, I want you to walk back to their room. I want you to stop at the door. Why do I want you to stop at the door? So you can scan and see if somebody in there for real. Otherwise, they're going to get you too. You need to know. So I want you to get there and see. And see. And so after you see, I want you then to come and connect with me. When I talked to my mother, I always came to eye level. Because that's respect all by itself. Standing up is a power play most times. Anybody worked in corporate know that one. And I'd be like, Mom, hey. I always had a smile. I was always pleasant. And if I couldn't be, I didn't go back there. Because there were some days I wanted to just cry. And I went somewhere and cried. I gave myself permission to be human. Can I hold your hand for a second? I then would hold Mom's hand, and I just gradually touch her. It don't take much. And what that does, did you know when you touch somebody, it calms your spirit too? In order for you to massage somebody, guess what you have to be? Calm yourself. And then once I found out, thank you so much. Once I found out, I connected with her, because connection is important, and connection happens one-on-one. One-on-one. And after the connection, I then assessed what was going on, And then in that assessment, I then went forward to do something to help her. Okay? One last story, and I'm going to let you go. A family contacted me, and I became a consultant to the family because we coach families. They called me on Monday. They had gone out to dinner on Sunday, and they were in a restaurant, and Dad, who has dementia, started pulling his clothes off at the table. I mean, get naked. What's your reaction, family? Stop. Why are you pulling your clothes off? They swooped him up so fast they couldn't see straight before they can get him out of there. I said, do me a favor. You did what you felt like you needed to do. I am not criticizing you. I want to teach you another behavior. This is what we did. I said, go find his clothes that he wore yesterday, his shirt in particular. In the back of his shirt, there was a pen that was sticking him. He did not know how to say, I got a pen and it's sticking me. So what he did was, just take it off. Because I don't have capacity anymore to tell you what I'm experiencing, I demonstrate. So know that when they behave in certain ways, that's their way of trying to tell you something. That's their way. All right? Little things. Yes, sir. Yep. Just sit down. Just sit down. Because you went in there trying to fix something, didn't you? I want to find out what's wrong with you so I can fix it. Yes. So what I would suggest is, first of all, give it some time. Don't walk in thinking you're going to be able to come straight to me. Walk in and scan it. Walk in and see. Then sit down. And with my mother, sometimes I just start singing. She loved Amazing Grace. And I'm not going to make no money with my voice. But Amazing Grace was a song I just sat there and started singing. At some point, she looked up at me and started mouthing Amazing Grace. That was the time to connect. Because I want it done at a given point in time doesn't mean it's going to happen. That's all I said. Go into her world and stop trying to bring them into your world. We keep trying to pull them back to so-called sanity. Who says your world is sane? They may think about it. Don't nothing bother them. I say there's some peace in that place sometimes. I had to deal with all this craziness. So I could go on and on, but I'm going to say, as caregivers, I encourage you to take care of yourself. You are so important to this process. I need you to find somebody to talk to that you trust. I need the church to start paying, and Pastor, thank you. I want the church to start paying attention to those folks in the pews that need us. I used to go to church and just sit in the pew and cry. Because when you're at church and you cry, they say, oh, she found the Holy Ghost. I'm like, you don't know what I'm dealing with. I ain't find no Holy Ghost. I just found a safe place to cry. So know that they need you. They really need you. And very seldom will they ask for any help. We got this notion somehow we're supposed to do it ourselves. I believe God put helps in the church. I believe God put helps around me to help me. And even if I can't, somebody pay attention to that one little sister or that one little brother that need that hug that Sunday. And if they say, I'm sad, don't say Jesus will fix it. I'm telling y'all make me sick with that. I need to deal with my issue. I know Jesus will fix it. He ain't fixing it on my time, though. But y'all know what I mean. Sometimes all they need is somebody to hug them. That's all. You don't even have to put words in place. I sometimes hug people and they just start to cry. That tells you they needed you. And so let me encourage you to say, this can be done. It can be done with humiliation, with honor, respect, and care, and you caring for yourself. Our motto at our nonprofit is, we care for caregivers. That's our job. We care for caregivers so that they themselves know, y'all ain't by yourself. Even though you try to act like you're by yourself, you're not by yourself. And so I invite you, we do a monthly lunch and learn on some topic related to caregiving. We do boot camps, which is an 8-hour day, where we give you all kinds of material, but we also talk about everything you could possibly talk about. We do an online support group. COVID said we need online support groups, and that's what we did. We come together once a month, and we talk about issues. And we talk in a safe place where ain't nobody going to laugh at you or feel like you don't know what you're doing, because most of us don't know what we're doing. We just working our way through it. And every now and then we get some guidance and we get some support. What else do I do? Oh, we do the online exercise program. So I'm going to stop and say it's 1 o'clock, the time that folks gave to me. I'm going to say thank you for the gift of time, the gift of your engagement. I hope this was useful for you. And I see a hand. Can I take a few questions, Pastor? Can I take a few questions? All right. Well, okay. Oh. All right.
I just want to say that I'm so grateful that God put you in our life. You have been such a blessing to us as a family, as we deal with daughters. And I'm telling y'all, everything she's saying here, we've seen it. You know, we took Dot to our family reunion, and that was the last time she was really herself. And she danced the whole time. She came home from that, and she stopped talking. And now she's in a fetal position. But Deborah Hayes, God gave us Deborah Hayes. Thank you, Jesus.
And I want you to know, we need each other. You think you exist alone. You don't exist alone. This family has been, I love this family. We have a new book out. It's called On the Front Porch. And I have 10 copies that I'm going to give to the church that they can whoever can what's the word I'm looking for? And everybody has a ticket here, and you can give it out. But I also have it for sale. As a nonprofit, I beg all the time, so I'm just begging again. So let me just say thank you. Can you bring the tickets down? And did I have the books? Where's my team at? The books are out there, I think. I decided that I wanted to focus on African American caregivers because we have some unique issues. And I wanted to make sure that we did that. It's maybe the pastor will be the hand that pulls the tickets. And then you can't say I did it for somebody. And this is my way, and again, I just wanted to give the tickets back. Everybody should have a ticket. You should have gotten one when you came in. But the book is, if you're interested in buying the book, please let me know. This is one way for us to raise money for the nonprofit. So, first we'll go to do the last three.
3, 2, 8.
Hey, yeah.
3, 1, 2. 3, 4, Listen, we are grateful to Sister Paula and her ministry that she has embraced because she learned it through living life herself. And I'm one who is convinced that God does not waste our pain. That when we go through what we go through, there's a purpose in it, and oftentimes, there's ministry in it, and that's what she has found in her pain. And so we applaud her, give her a hand to show her some love. Not only are we going to get some of your books, we're going to see how we can include you in our budget and make this nonprofit part of the ministry that we support as a church. Here's the basic insights that I gleaned from you, Paula, that we can take home. One, that if we're going to be good caregivers, caretakers, we have to learn how to love the people that's in our lives. I mean, really love them. And love is doing what's best for the other person, not just what's comfortable and convenient for us. And to love them, we have to learn them. Not teach them, not train them, not transform them into being who we want them to be or who they once were, but we have to learn them just as they are. And what's even more challenging, learn them as they are going through what they're going through. But then she said we have to learn how to live with them, to live in their world. And not just try to make them live back in our crazy world. That if we do that, we really do justice for them by honoring them and celebrating them and perhaps investing in our own future. Because be not deceived, God is not mocked. What we sow, we also reap. I've always had respect, love, and kindness for older people because I always wanted to be one. And I wanted people to be nice to me. I long stopped complaining about old people driving slow and doing what they do because they got things to do. They got places to go. If you ain't going to drive them, they got to drive themselves. So learn to be nice. Just be nice. There is a biblical illustration I'll share just a little bit of. You can read it for yourself. That puzzled me years ago, where Jesus tells the story of this rich man who had a poor man at his gate, and they both died. And the rich man woke up in hell. And the poor man woke up being carried into the bosom of Abraham. And on the surface, it almost appears that God puts rich people in hell and poor people in heaven. But that's not the proper interpretation or application of that story that Jesus tells. For there are rich people in heaven and rich people in hell. And there'll be poor people in heaven and poor people in hell. But as I examine that story, it appears that sometimes, God places people on our doorstep to check the barometer of our love for Him by the way we treat them. And we can't really say we really love God, we believe God, we honor God, and we mistreat or abuse those He has placed on our doorstep. Sometimes our family, our friends who are suffering with dementia and other health crises, and she says, they're not there to give you a hard time. They're there because they're having a hard time. And perhaps God is testing your faith You'd have lost faith in the church. You'd have lost faith in preachers. You'd have lost faith in them hypocritical church folks, Christians. And God said, okay, you'd have ran across some bad church people. There's some bad church people. You'd have ran across some bad pastors. Yes, there's some bad pastors. You'd have ran across some bad religious people. Okay, all that. But let me see how you really feel about people, period. And he placed somebody on your doorstep. Somebody who you love. Somebody who once perhaps took care of you. Now he want to see how you going to treat them. Love them. Learn them. Live with them. And you get confused, call Paula. God bless you. Thank you for coming. Look forward to the next installment, whenever that be, that we can carry on. She has a number of outlets that she shared, that she does monthly and weekly, I imagine, different places. But this kind of information need to get out, because all of us have family members who have struggled with this, and some of us struggle with it now. Amen. And perhaps, who knows, if we get this in our system, boy, let me tell you what I'm going to do from now on. When I'm going into a room, I'm telling myself, I'm going to get my shoes. I'm going to get my keys. I'm going to pick up my phone. I'm talking to myself from now on. Yeah. I'm telling myself what I am doing. Laugh at me if you want to, but I'm talking to me. Watch me tomorrow. I'm going to get up and say, I'm going up here to preach. God bless you. Let us stand. God, we thank her team and this awesome ministry that is so needed in our community and among us, that we come to realize that this thing called life comes in stages and it's not always planned and we don't always have the answers. But God, I am really convinced that love gets us through it all. And that at the end of the day, when it comes to dementia and handling our people, we have to love them. Help us to love them as you have loved us. Jesus, you told us that we are to love others as you have loved us, not as we love ourselves or as they have loved us, but we are to love others as you have loved us. And you have loved us through the good and the bad, the ups and downs, when we loved you, when we didn't love you, when we acknowledged you, when we ignored you. So help us, oh God, to practice the principles and precepts we've learned today, that you might get glory in all that we do and say, that the world might be better, that you might smile, that life may be sweeter for those we love. Continue to bless the ministry of Paul and her team and all that go forth. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Praise God.